In today's video, we'll be talking about some simple functions or simple operations that you can do with the MySQL or PostgreSQL or any SQL or any querying language that you are using. So these are the topics that we'll be covering in this video. It will be mostly about basic arithmetic operations in SQL, followed by some formulas and so on and so forth. We'll be covering each one by one. So let's begin. In order to start, I will first of all create another query window, and I'll just simply copy paste the stuff that are there here. Let's start with basic arithmetic operations in SQL. Uh, SQL has this very beautiful thing where you don't even need to do create a table. You don't need any tables in database to do some simple mathematical operations. Like say you want to do the products of two items, say 100 into 200. What's the output? You can do that. Well, that those things always. It's easy. You just write select 100 into 200. That's it, and then you run it. Here you see the output has come 20,000. If you now that I have not given it any name, this is where this question mark column question mark has come up. So I can always give it a name as product. Let's call it as product. We're giving it a name as product. So here you see the column name changes as product. Same thing you can do always, like select 50 plus 90 as sum. See what happens here. The column name sum comes up and the sum of 50 and 90 becomes 140. This way you can do a lot of mathematical operations and use SQL as a simple calculator. Similar things you can do over columns as well, or over fields. So that takes us to the second topic here, which is including a formula upon a cell or a field. In order to do that, let's see a particular table first. Let me check this table called products. Okay. Or from products. Here you see some 90 records are there. One thing that I wanted to mention here is that in our earlier videos we had created only 2 records, but in order to show more operations and the power of SQL, I've added a lot more tables out here, summing up to a total of 90. Okay, so now let's see that the price is here, right? So I want to see that for shirts or for each product, what's the value of that product that I have. Like I have 100 units of shirts, each worth 400 rupees. So total worth of shirts that I have in my stock is 400 into 100. I can always do that. uh, let me check that out. Okay, so I'll just write select this price into stock quantity. Okay, price into stock quantity from products. Okay, if I do this, only one column will show up. So I'll just give it as an alias as uh, stock held, and I run this query. If you see, the stock held came up. But this does not make any sense because I don't know which stock it is. So I can simply put a star in front, and whatever table, whatever result that this thing gave, in addition to that, it will also give me the stock held. So here you see product ID, product name, price, max discount allowed, stock quantity, product code category, stock held is equal to this thing. I can always do that. I can even add an additional information, additional columns on top of it. Like I can say that uh, I can do a calculation. I can say that when is this report generated. Okay, so I call it as report generated generation date as, or I call it as 2020, or today is 19th of July, 19th of July 2020. And since this is a string, I'll put it within quotes, and Let me just remove this first and then show you what happens. If I print this, if I run this, it says that okay, 19th of July is the additional column with the values 19th of July that has shown up here. I can drag it a bit to show you the entire date. Okay. Now this column does not have any name. So how do I give it a name? Simple as alias, and I say that as report generation date. And I run the query again, and here you see this thing has come up like this. So what you have seen here is that I can do mathematical operations on two columns. I can simply multiply column A with column B. What SQL would do is that it will go row by row and pick the value of price and pick the value of quantity, then multiply these two and assign it to the column, the newly generated column that is called stock held. And then it will assign 19th of July 2020 to another newly generated column called report generation. Then it will move to the next row and multiply 300 into 100 and make it as 30,000, and so on and so forth. I can even do additional calculations on top of this also. Like I can say that uh, maximum discount allowed. Uh, I see here that maximum discount allowed is 80, that is 20% of 400. So I would say that before I want to check that if I change the maximum discount allowed to 15%, then what happens? Then I say that I'll just paste this entire thing, which I've already done, and then I say that price price into 0.15 as new max discount, and then give it a comma here. Now, here you see that what it will do is it will again go row by row and multiply this price with 0.15. Let's see what happens here. Let me run it. There's a shortcut to run this also. If I press F5 on my keyboard, the query executes. That is this play button. So now coming back to this example, you see that price is 400, max discount allowed is 80, stock quantity is 100, stock held is 40,000, and new max discount is 60. That is 15% of 400. Here 15% of 300 is 45, 15% of 100 is 15, and so on and so forth. So what you have seen is that I can do simple mathematical operations and use SQL as a calculator. I can do those simple mathematical operations on different fields as well. Now, with this example, where we have multiplied two different columns, I have covered this aspect also, which is including a formula over multiple fields. So let me just cut it out from here and I will paste it under this. The next thing that we want to discuss here is how do I update values on any field based on a certain logic? Like, now that I've seen that max discount allowed should be revised from 80 to 60, what do I do in that case? I'll first of all go to the update query, right? I say update products, and what am I revising? That is max discount allowed. So I say set max discount allowed equals to whatever the new logic is. Say I put it as, for the time's sake, I put it as 1230, and that's it. So what it will do is that it will change the max discount allowed value for all the cells. Let me show that to you here. I just put it this way and it has changed, and let me check the values here. Here you see that max discount allowed has become 1230. If I want to do a formula on this and then assign it on it, like what I did here is that where was it? Max discount allowed of 15%, this one, right? What I did here, instead of creating a new field and showing it, I want to assign this value to this field. I can do that always. I can write update products set max discount allowed equals to price into 0.15. What it will do is that it will go row by row, pick the price, multiply it by 0.15 and assign it here. Similarly here for the next row, and then for the next row, and so on and so forth. So first value that would come here would be 15% of 40, which is 60. Then 15% of 30, which will be 45. 15% of 100, which will be 15. 15% of 15 would be 22.5. Let's see how it works. If that's how it works. Query has been run successfully. Now let me just check it out. See, 60, 45, 20, 15, 23. Now, why is this showing 23 instead of 22.5? Because the type of this column has been set as integers when we started in the beginning. Remember, when you created the field, that is why it rounds it up. Okay. Now, what I want to do is I just want to decrease this max discount value or max discount allowed by 5. By 5, that is it is not dependent on this price anymore. I just want to decrease it by 5. I can always do that. I can take this value and then subtract 5 from it. So like in that case, what I'll do is that update products set max discount allowed equals to max discount allowed minus 5. Okay, so this is like this might be confusing for some who are extremely new to programming. In this case, what happens is SQL will consider this as the current value and this as the value it should be after my operation is done. Got it? So when I run this query, SQL will go row by row. It will pick the first row, then pick the current value of max discount allowed, that is 60, and assign it here. So it will say that current value is 60. Let me remove 5 from it, and then I update the value or assign the new value, that is 60 minus 5, that is 55, to the column or the field for this row, that is called max discount allowed. So the current value would be picked up, 5 would be subtracted from it, and then it will be assigned back to this. Then SQL will go to the next row, take 45, subtract 5 from it, and then update with the new value, that is 40. Similarly, it will take 15 minus 5, 10, and update it to 10. This will go down to 18 and so on and so forth. Let's check it out. I run this query. It has been executed. Now let me see what the value is. Here you see it changed from 55 to 40, 10, 18, 55, and so on and so forth. This is very easy to understand. And these are the typical fundamental queries that you would be needing to run in your work. Then we'll move on to additional operations that we can do, which are like common statistical operations. Uh, what if I want to find out the maximum price of any product that is there? Okay. Or I want to find the product which has the minimum price, or what is the median product, or what's the average price at which I'm selling my my products. This is again simple. I do a select star from, or I say, okay, if I want to say the minimum price, okay, I said minimum of this price from the table. So I'll say select minimum of price from the table named products. Let me run it. So it gives me that the product that has the minimum price is 100. I can do the same thing for maximum, where I write max, run it. It says maximum price that has been listed is 400. Now, if I have to do an average, there are certain functions like min, max, and average also. However, if you want to do calculate it by yourself, then you can also do that. In that case, what is the definition of an average function? An average is the total of all the values divided by the total number of values that are there. So first part is sum of the entire value. So that takes me to the sum function here. Okay. So let me copy this and change it to sum. It tells me total value. Sum of all the prices is 550. So now that I have the sum, I can always do another thing that is called the count. That is number of rows that are there. So I say select count of price from this thing, and I run it. So it says 90. Now if I want to do an average, I can do like this: select sum of price divided by count of price, okay, and call it as average from the table. And so this, I'll just call it as an average price, and I run it. Here you see 228. If I look at it, the sum of the prices is how much? 202550, something like that, 20550. So I'll say select 20550. Remember the arithmetic query that I did here? Similarly, I'll do here also. And if I run the count is 90. So I do this 90, and then I run this query. It will give me a value of 228. This is the same value that I'm getting here. So there are like so many different statistical functions that you can do, like products and average, mean, median, mode, and all those things. For that, you can easily do a Google search, and it is pretty easy to find out. Now, there's one more important thing that you may be using a lot. If I run this and my manager asks me, so what are the exact products that I'm selling, irrespective of the shops that I own? In that case, I can do this thing that is called distinct. So I say select distinct, and I put the product name here. Product name from products. So in this case, you see only 25 records are there. So I said, okay, I sell potatoes, shuttles, eggs, notebooks, erasers, and so on and so forth across all my shops. So this function called distinct also comes in handy. Now what we'll be discussing is about how to find a string within a string. So these are like applying logics on different strings. For that, I'll just open up a new window or new query window, and I'll just I'll just put a see what is there in this table right now. So I'll just write select star from products, and then when I run it by pressing F5, I see so like 90 records are already there, right? Now what I would want to search here is to I'll try to find out, is there any string here which has the combination of letters 80 in that, or at. Okay, so what I'm doing here is find find the string 80 within the field, within the entries in the field named product underscore name. It's pretty easy to search this, as long as this field is of type string, that is character varying. So the syntax goes like this: select star from products. Okay, products. It's again a simple search query, and here I'll put where product name like which percentage 80. I'll explain about what this percentage means in this string. But first, if you remember, there are like 90 records out here. Yes. Now if I search for it and I run this query, I see only 17 records are present there. Let's check them out. Hats has 80 in that, potatoes has 80 in that, tomatoes has 80 in it, right? Similarly, cricket bat has 80 in the end. So this way, we can search any string that is within a particular string. Now we'll talk about what does this percentage symbol at the beginning and at the end mean. What it means is percentage means that anything, any string that is there, just keep it as such. And then I'm searching for at or 80. What it means that a string that looks like this followed by at, or a string that looks like this followed by at, or any string that looks like this followed by at, or even just a simple at presence. This all these strings they qualify for percentage 80. What it means again is that this string or any string that is preceding 80, we'll just keep it as such and then we'll consider that word as qualifying for this particular condition. Similarly, if I do 80 in the end or 80 followed by a percentage, then any string that is like this, which starts with 80 or like this or like this, or even a string like this, it will pick up. What it says is that any word that begins with 80 and is followed by any string that would qualify for this particular condition. When I put percentage 80 percentage, it's a combination of both of this. In that case, it will be like 80 percentage, and it would be like any string that precedes and has 80 in between, and anything that follows, it will pick up. Similarly, no string precedes, but some string is following, it will pick up. Some string is following, followed by 80, it will pick up. And it will also pick up a string that is just 80. This is how it works on a string. If you want to do it on an integer, then it will not work. Like if I say in this price column, I want to search if 5 is present or not. Let me do that. In this case, I'll just simply copy it and I say price column has 5 or not. If I do it this way and then I run it, this does not work. Why is it so? Because if you look at it, this work price is defined as an integer, whereas product name is defined as a string, that is character varying as defined within Postgres. Because of this, it will not search 5 within this. What we need to do is that we have to convert the price into a string and then compare. How do we do it? It's pretty simple. We write the same query and we say tell SQL or the PostgreSQL that when you're looking at price, you see it as a string, that is as character varying. And in order to define that, we have to call this function that is called cast. So what it will do is that it will, whenever it will compare price, it will take the value of price, convert it to a string and then compare it and then find if 5 is present within that or not. As you must be knowing, or as we have discussed earlier, that SQL goes line by line by line, right? So first it will pick the row number 1 and then it will check price, pick the value 400, convert it to a string or consider it as a string instead of an integer, and then search the presence of 5 in 400. Since it is not, that will not pick up, it will just simply drop that. Then it will go to the next row and then convert 300 to a string and find the place of the letter 5. It will not qualify. Then it will go to row number 3. Again, same thing, it won't qualify. It will go to row number 4 and here it qualifies because 5 is present there. So if we have a cursory look, it will pick up row number 4, row number 8, and so on. Let's run this query and see. Here you see 4 and 8 are picked up. So 150, 150, 150. All these are valued at 150 and they have 5 present. So that is how we do a string comparison, or we search for a substring within a string. This is one of the most common um, queries that you would be encountering if you're dealing with SQL. Now, next question comes is that concatenation. This is another extremely common feature or common thing that you'd be using in your day-to-day life while dealing with SQL. Now say that I want to show that hats, I don't want to show it as hats. I want to show that the name as well as the product ID in one single shot. How do I do it? Okay. In that case, I will do select concat product underscore ID, comma product underscore name from the products. Okay. Now if I run it, here you see 5 is hats, 9 is potatoes, 10 is tomatoes, and so on. Let me just run it. Here you see 5 hats, 9 potatoes, 10 tomatoes, and so on. I can concatenate two different columns together. Even I can concatenate my own words or phrases or string, whatever I want. How do I do it? Say like here, if you see, there's no spacing in between. So I want to put a hyphen in between. So I'll put a hyphen in between. Now, if I do it this way, this will not work. Why? I'll show you. But before that, let me show that it's not working. See, some error has come. So SQL is not able to understand what is this. Is this a field name? Is it an operator? What it is? Typically in concatenation function, this is considered as a field name, but there's no field with this name mentioned. Now that I am putting this value in between, I have to tell that, okay, this is not a field in the table, but this is a string that I'm asking you to put. So I have to define it as a string by putting it within single quotes. Now if I run it, you see 1 hyphen shirts, 2 hyphen pants, 3 hyphen tops, and so on. Now I want to put a space before and after. I can always do that, put a space before and after, and I can do it, and it happened here. So, or I can simply write product ID means, I'll say that product ID refers to product name. Okay. So I say that 1 refers to shirts, 2 refers to pants, 3 refers to tops, and so on. So whatever I put here, it will work. Similarly, I can put the same thing anywhere I want. I can put it like this, refers 3. Okay. For some here, refers 3 got added. So this way you concatenate strings to each other. Now, string operations over multiple fields is this what we did. Okay. Now where fields are of the same type, that is string. So this is how it would work. Okay, the in concatenation function. Okay. Now if you see here, second category was when one is of type integer and second one is of type string. If you remember, product ID was integer and product name was a string. Now, concatenate function will always consider whatever is there in that field as a string. It does not care if it is an integer, string, date, or whatever. It will just simply pick it up as a string. So concatenation as a function is pretty advanced. But if I have to multiply, that will not work. Okay. If I have to do a string search, it will not work. Okay. Let me just show that to you. Before that, let me pull this off again. This one, pull this up again. Okay. Here you see that product ID and product name. ID is of type string and name is of type shirts. Oh, sorry, ID is of type integer. Here you see ID is of type integer and name is of type string. So when I concatenate, the concatenation function considers this as picks it up as whatever it is, consider that as a string, and then concatenates. So this works perfectly fine. But if I want to multiply 1 with shirts, what will happen? It will not multiply. What does one multiplied by shirt means? It doesn't mean anything, right? Similarly, what does two multiplied with pants mean? It doesn't mean anything. So can I convert this to a integer? A string like this, we just cannot convert that to integers. So understand this thing. No matter whatever logic you want to put, if a string cannot be converted to an integer, you cannot do any arithmetic operations on it. Under what conditions can you convert a string to an integer? There's only one condition in which you can do that. The one condition is this column stores values which are actually integers, but this column is defined as a string. Then only we can do it. But with that also, SQL may not allow you to do that at all. So be careful while defining the type of a field. If it is a type integer, don't ever define it as a variable. It will become very, very tough for you in the later phases to do arithmetic operations. Let me do certain things here where I want to search all the prices which has 5 mentioned in it. Can I do this operation? Let me check it out. Okay. I know we cannot, but let me check it out. So I say it as price, price like 5. If I do this, it will not work. Why? Because price is an integer and this function that is like this operator like works only on strings. So what do I do in that case? I have to convert price into string. There's a syntax to do that, and let's explore that. Let me copy this entire thing. And then I say, I convert this to integer. How do I do it? I say cast thing as integer and then run the query. Okay, sorry. Instead of integer, I have to make it as a string. And PostgreSQL considers character varying as a string. Character varying as a string. And here I run it and see it showed all the prices which has 5 mentioned in it. These are the pretty easy operations that will come extremely handy for you. You can go for additional complicated ones or advanced ones depending upon the requirements, but these are the operations that are like most common, and almost 95 to 98% of the cases you'll be dealing only with these operations. Now, one beautiful thing about SQL, or to that matter, Excel, or any data table, anything that handles data, is dates. Why I say that it's very interesting and something that you should know is because d- dates can be written in multiple formats. Like I can write today's date in YY format. I can write in a YY format. I can do the same thing in this format also, YYYY. I can write it in YYYY, this format. I can also write it as 19th of July 2020. I can write it as July 19th, comma 2020. I can also write as 19th June 2020. So there are multiple ways of writing it. These things are still okay. This much is still okay. And this is also still okay. But these major confusion starts happening when these are the cases. Now tell me one thing. I'll explain you that. Tell me one thing. What date is it? 01/02/2020. Is it 1st of February or the 2nd of January? That is the confusion that happens when we deal with dates. So you need to be extremely careful while dealing with dates, and that's how it is. And many a places you must have seen the date is written as 1441, some 59 or something like that. What does this mean? This is something that what we call epoch time, or we call it Unix time, okay, and so on. What it means is that the number of seconds that have passed since the 1st of January 1970. Okay, so that is what it means. So this is a more robust method of storing date information, or even date time information. Uh, and I personally prefer converting everything to epoch and then doing the calculations on myself. But you can always play around with that. Now, if you look at it, if I want to see the current date, let me just check it out what it means. Okay, so I do select now. That's it, and I run it. You can see the time is given as 20, 27, 19. So it follows this convention. Okay. And the time is 11:57:02. So what is happening is this Postgres server is installed in my computer, and this is the computer time that is right now. Okay. So that is why it is saying 2020:07:19:11:57. Now I want to find, I don't want the time to be shown in this format. I just want to see which year it is. Okay. But before that, I will just explain you one thing that I just observed is that this tells me about the date, this tells me about the time that is right now, and this tells me about the time zone where I am. So currently, I am offset by 530 hours in the positive side, or I am 530 hours ahead or east of Greenwich Mean Time, or UTC. Okay, so this is one thing. Now let's proceed to the further operations that I want to do. Is that I don't want to see the date like this. I want to see what month it is today. I can easily do it by running this query. Select extract month from now, and it will tell me the month. That is 7. I can do the same thing for year, date, day. Let's see. 5. Today is 19th. Year. Today is 2020. And this will not work. Sorry. There's some issues there, right? So this will not work. Similarly, I can do extract epoch. 5. Here, the epoch time has come. If you want to read more about epoch time, you can always Google it. And this is a very good place where you can find answers to multiple things that you may encounter for handling dates. With that, we come to the end of this session on the most common operations that you'd be handling using SQL. Thank you.